Hello, EKN Nation, and welcome to what will probably be one of the final podcasts of the 2019 season. My name's Rob Howden. David Cole, of course, joining us here on the EKN Radio Network. This is episode number 3 of the EKN OutLap, a brand new podcast show that we debuted for the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals, essentially giving us an opportunity to preview an upcoming event in podcast form. We've got lots of great feedback from everyone from EKN Nation, loving the podcast, loving the EKN Radio Network. So this is kind of a new idea. I'll give the props to Cole. David, this was yours. I appreciate
it's
that.
My baby.
But we're going to preview it's your baby?
My baby.
Do we need to call it David Cole's EKN OutLap?
No. I am not that. No, you don't need to put my name on it. Just give me the props like you did.
We'll give you the nod on a regular basis. Anyways, folks, we're going to preview a race as we always do. The teams, the drivers are competing, any other special stories surrounding the event. That's what the EKN OutLap is all about. The race we're going to be talking about today, one of the longest run, if not the longest running a race that we've seen in this sport, the World Karting Association Daytona KartWeek, presented by Summit Racing Equipment. We'll talk all about what's happening in Daytona between Christmas and New Year's. This edition of the EKN OutLap, presented by Briggs Racing. Briggs & Stratton is powering Operation Grassroots around the world. No other engine manufacturer is getting new and returning drivers to their kart track like the Briggs 206. The out-of-the-box performance provides the most fun, excitement, and reliability of any karting engine on the global market. Learn more about the 206 engine and the history behind Briggs & Stratton's century-long commitment to motorsports at www.briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you? All right, David Cole, let's jump into this thing, my friend. The EKN OutLap, episode number 3, December the 19th. No, December 20th now. It's the 20th. 11 days left in the 2019 calendar year, and one more big race to knock out. It's kind of, you always say this. It's the last race of 2019, but it's actually the first race of 2020.
Yes, every sport, motorsport, whether it be stick and ball sport or motorsport, they all have different starting points and ending points in a season.
Yeah.
And for karting, it's basically a December to November season is kind of how we look at things, because always every year the Daytona Kart Week starts everything off for the upcoming season. And so we consider it December as, really, to be honest, everything ends with Vegas and everything begins with Daytona. That's really how we kind of look at things, because there's no really racing going on in the month of December except for this annual event that we go to and many racers go to from around North America.
Yeah, there's a couple races here and there. People try to jam some stuff in between the Super Nationals and Daytona, down, of course, in the South, whether it's Southern California or Florida or Texas, whatever. They may jam a club race in here or something like that. But otherwise, the regional and national levels of the sport kind of take things off the end of November to the end of December. So it's really kind of a month break. We all get to press the reset button. We have a good time at Thanksgiving. People start pulling out the Christmas trees, and we think about the holiday season, and then we roll into the next year. Now, David, I know Daytona, of course, near and dear to your heart. You've been there before. You and your father and the family have raced there before. You've been down many times as part of our EKN Trackside live coverage. We're not heading down there this year, potentially looking to maybe go back down again in 2020. But, David, let's talk a little bit about it, man. It's Daytona International Speedway. It's Daytona, for God's sakes. It's the Daytona 500. It's just that, what they call it, the world center of speed, I think is the word they use.
Correct.
December 27th to the 30th, right, is the run this year. And I believe that is Friday to Monday. I think that's the call, right?
Yeah, it always falls on this particular segment of the calendar because it's right after Christmas, right before New Year's. So it's not necessarily a weekend type event. Last year, I believe day one of racing at the Manufacturer Cup was on Saturday. So it kind of played out like it was a normal weekend, but it's
Right.
never a normal weekend when you're racing at Daytona, especially for a KartWeek event. Everything really began though 45 years ago with the
Awesome.
World Karting Association going down to Daytona International Speedway for the first time ever. And it was road racing only. That's kind of what bred this event, was road racing, hitting the high banks, going through the infield. Obviously, the facility has changed over those 45 years, so the track has not always been the same, but it's been your typical 24-hour circuit. That's the road racing section of World Karting Association has been going around. And they've been there every year except for two. 2006, there was a removal of Daytona Kart Week. The organization was not behind it 100% at the time, along with, I believe, the Speedway as well. So just things were not on the same page. So 2006, there was no Daytona Kart Week whatsoever. But then 2010, we had to miss it road racing wise because they were paving the oval. If everybody remembers, Daytona International Speedway repaved the entire tri-oval from, I believe they started right after the July 4th of July event, the Firecracker 400 or whatever they call it now, or whatever it was at that time.
Right.
They as soon as that event was over, they started the repaving of the track. It almost was going to be done, I think, in time for KartWeek, but the facility had decided, we're not going to chance it. Let's make everything ready to go for the 24 hours of Daytona, which was coming up in January. So
it's a fairly important event.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, still one event that we need to go to as well.
I've actually been there one time.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Went down.
Yes, but
yes, the Mazda. That was a lot of fun. You and I got to get down there for sure. Here's one thing I do want to mention, only because you talk about 1974 being the launch. I remember when I was in public school and high school, looking at books, grabbing the kart racing books that we might have in the library, whatever it may be, and I remember seeing photos from 74, probably 74 to 80, maybe, of guys driving at Daytona. And of course, I was all into racing. My dad was a super late model stock car driver. I lived and breathed stock car racing. But I remember seeing the pictures, the photos of the karts at Daytona, thinking, "Man, that's cool." That kind of caught me early. You know what I mean? It was really, man, this be fun.
Yeah, I was getting into it later, but really the 80s were the high point of Daytona Kart Week for road racing. When you're talking entries over 1,000, 130 in one class, and it was just you talk about the super nationals, the early beginnings of it when they had 70 to 80 guys per class. Well, the Daytona Kart Week, the early days of that for road racing was just amazing when you had fields of 130 and 140.
Wow, that's awesome. So, okay, one of the things obviously about Kart Week that separates it, I think, from any separates from any other event that we have, is the fact that WKA has essentially all three of their disciplines as part of this one big race. There's road racing on the Speedway. Manufacturers Cup has been at different venues. It's, of course, inside NASCAR Turn 3 and 4 now. And then, of course, the dirt track, which at one point ran out at Municipal Stadium. It ran at Volusia. We'll talk more about that. It's just outside the track now as well. David, let's talk a little bit about the Manufacturers Cup. You've had a chance to be there on many occasions with our EKN Trackside live coverage, but detail a little bit about the history of the Manufacturers Cup as a part of WKA Kart Week.
Yeah, it has a long history of being part of Kart Week, not necessarily as much as road racing, but sprint racing in the Manufacturers Cup Series actually began Kart Week in Jacksonville during the Halloween week. So 1981, everybody was racing in Jacksonville during Halloween. Well, they moved it to the traditional Kart Week of December dates. Racing, and they brought it to Daytona for the first time in 1982, just inside. I've talked to Randy Kugler, former WKA president. He believes where it was done was on the backstretch at night under the lights, is what he told me. 1982. Really? Now this is really cool and interesting. I got to go get some magazines and kind of look into it. And the story I had, they had no pictures in it, but my dad was able to pull out an old magazine, and it was a nighttime program. They started practice about 7:30. So essentially, once the road racers got done, they set up like a kidney looking racetrack on the backstretch. Yep. Put up some lights and ran practice and heat races and races. So it was an interesting little thing that Randy told me, and would be, it's a lot harder to do, I think, nowadays, just because of the number of classes and everything, because back then you're talking maybe eight classes per day and not as many racers. But so that was technically the first time Manufacturers Cup raced inside Daytona was in 1982. After that, they moved to Jacksonville during the December week from 1983 to 2000. A 1-year stint in Ocala before it actually came back to Daytona in 2002. And it's been at Daytona since then, aside from the 2006 year when there was no event that year. Following that absence, they actually ran a WKA Gold Cup race on the circuit in April of 2007. And then 2007 to now, they've had the Manufacturers Cup inside, turns 3 and 4 there since then. 13 years in a row now, 17th in total at Daytona.
Yeah, it's interesting that the different venues for the Manufacturers Cup, where they were part of the WKA KartWeek event, and it was kind of cool when obviously everything started to come together, right? And we'll talk more when we cap off about our own personal experiences as part of KartWeek. But yeah, it's obviously found a home. The track there, we've been there. You've been there a lot more than I have. I've been there on many occasions myself, and I don't think the racing's fantastic on that particular racetrack. I love the venue, obviously. Let's talk dirt now, because obviously one of the big things about the WKA and its all-encompassing program with the 3 different disciplines. Give us a little history on the dirt program as part of KartWeek.
Well, that began in 1981 at Memorial Stadium. Now, Memorial Stadium is not the stadium you're thinking of. It's actually was the site of the dirt race for the first few years, and it was located east of the Speedway off 92 behind the hospital, so kind of in that area. So we're all used to Municipal Stadium, yeah, which is west of Daytona International Speedway on the other side of the interstate that side. So it actually began at Memorial Stadium, and it moved to Volusia through 1985 through 1987 as they were building I can never say this name.
Municipal Stadium.
Yeah, I can't say it. It's
Dude,
too many
fantastic.
eyes. Too many eyes.
That's awesome. Municipal.
I just call it the stadium. How about that?
Let's call it the stadium for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, the stadium. So while that was being built, they raced in Volusia. So for 1, 2, 3 years there, 1988, they moved to this brand new stadium. And of course, from 1988 to 2005, it was the event for dirt racing. Massive event. Obviously, 2006 was a transition year where they had no Daytona at all. The dirt race was actually held at Volusia for 2006 and 2007. And then after that, there's actually no dirt race in 2008 during, again, a little bit of a transition period. But when Daytona International Speedway decided to build the dirt track outside turn 2, it allowed the WKA to bring the dirt racing back and right at the International Speedway there with the dirt track that's out there. And so since 2009 to now, they have that has been the home for the Dirt World Championships.
Yeah, it'll be the 11th edition on that track just outside of turn number 2. And always fun to go, when we're there, getting a chance to go there at night, because they run it they ran it under the lights when we were there. It was a lot of fun to watch. And I know you took some video when you were down there last time, which was great. Just good to see the dirt event get some roots. And, we'll talk later on in this podcast. I had a chance to chat with WKA President Kevin Williams. We talked a little bit about the dirt program and how it's kind of grown and what they've been able to do. They've got some great partners with the dirt program. We don't focus a lot on dirt here, of course, on ekartingnews.com, primarily sprint and road racing, but we wanted to bring the dirt program in. When we get back, folks, we're going to jump right in. We have a quick commercial break here. When we come back to this edition of the EKN OutLap, David is going to talk a little bit more about the Bridgestone Manufacturers Cup Series. We'll look at some of the categories. We'll talk a little bit about the news. Sent you the preview of the Manufacturers Cup race as part of the WKA KartWeek for 2019. Top quality material, all presented in fluorescent yellow. You've seen it, and now you need to choose the flow. Since 2005, J3 Competition has been capturing major victories and championships both on and off the track, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and rolled it into their own chassis line in 2015, the Comp Kart. The CIK FIA homologated brand has been winning races ever since. There are 3 Comp Kart models to choose from. The Covert 3.0 R19 is the latest design for tag and shifter competition. The Covert 4R serves several popular categories, including 100cc and Brakes 206 racing. The Ranger 28 model is designed for cadet racing and will be the official chassis of the Minimax division at the 2019 Rotax Challenge Grand Finals in Sarno, Italy. And lastly, new karters can get right into the comp kart product from the beginning, running the micro kart in the kid kart division. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. Do it now. Choose the flow.
For over a century, Briggs & Stratton has had a commitment and passion for racing. It's a DNA found in every engine we build today. So whether you kart race, Baja, race quarter midgets, or believe that dirt and snow are just God's way of adding to the challenge, the dedicated spirit of every Briggs & Stratton employee stands at the fence waiting for the green flag to drop. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you?
The 2019 season is rapidly coming to a close, and it's time to start thinking about 2020. Get out your calendar and mark off the dates for the fastest growing Rock Cup program in the U.S., the Challenge of the Americas. It's our 13th season and year 3 of our Rock focus, and 2020 will be the biggest yet. As always, the Challenge features 3 race weekends at 3 of the finest tracks in the West: the Musselman Honda Circuit in Tucson, Cal Speed Karting in Fontana, and Sonoma in NorCal Wine Country. Our classes include Micro, Mini, Junior, Senior, and Masters Rock, our multi-manufacturer 100cc Junior, Senior, and Masters level, and our well-supported Rock Shifter and Rock Shifter Masters program. We're by far the largest shifter program in the West, with 56 unique competitors and an average of 32 shifter drivers in just 2 categories this past winter. While other West Coast programs are shrinking, the Challenge of the Americas and Rock are growing. With over 125 entries at last year's opener, 150 plus is certainly a possibility for 2020. So make sure you're part of the fun. Prizes include tickets to the massive Rock Cup Super Final and the Rock the Rio event in Las Vegas. The Challenge opener is less than 4 months away, so head to our website at challengekarting.com, pull out that calendar, and lock in the dates. We'll see you in Tucson. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, the 3rd edition of the EKN OutLap. It is December 20th, 2019. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole as we preview the upcoming WKA KartWeek at Daytona International Speedway. David, let's start talking about the Manufacturers Cup. We'll kind of split this into 3 different groups. Let's talk Manufacturers Cup right now, a new format for 2020.
Yeah, new format for the series, something that we're really excited about. They tried it for 1 year, I believe, 2012, maybe 2013. They tried to go with a one final format for every event. And I think especially for Daytona, because of the time crunch with sunlight being so scarce and not as long as the summer days. Now they've gone through for the whole 2020 Manufacturers Cup Series program. They've gone to one final per event. So day 1 will be practice and qualifying. Day 2 will be progressive heats. And then day 3 will be your main event. So it's... I
make you happy?
It does make me happy. I'm glad to see it. And I think racers are going to like it. Especially in the larger categories. I mean, it is a bit tougher in the smaller size categories because you have to go out there and kind of do the same thing over and over again. But in the larger categories, it's really cool to see the heat races, especially being progressive. So you move up one heat race, you move up the next heat race, and we've seen it, at other events as well. So it's a fun little unique format to do that. But essentially, the biggest part is there's one winner per class, and that's the biggest thing that we've been fighting over. We understand the need to having 2 finals on a weekend. We understand the warm fuzzy feeling that people get about it. But any form of racing, there's always one winner per race, and that's what you want to see. And now we have that with the Manufacturers Cup Series.
You know, Dave, the interesting thing about the Manufacturers Cup Series and what WK has done this year, they really have put it in a blender and shooken things up. a new format, a new class structure with a bunch of new categories in. They changed up the schedule a little bit. Primarily, but both of us pleading for less races because there's just too many races last year. They cut things down a little bit. Let's talk about the new class structure, 12 categories, but I think the big one, we'll talk about what's returning and what's not around. The big thing is the fact that they have WK has really partnered up with Rock Cup USA to bring those rock classes into Man Cup this year.
Yeah, that's the key component to the 2020 class structure that includes 12 classes this year. The only returning categories we have from last year are Mini Swift, X30 Junior, and Briggs Cadet 206. So those are the only classes that are returning. New for this year is Micro Rock, Mini Rock, Junior Rock, Senior Rock, Master Rock, Shifter Rock, and Shifter Master Rock. So those are the core Rock Cup USA categories that we see throughout the country. Those are going to be part of Manufactured Cup Series this year. And you add in the VLR engine in with the K100 engine, and now you have a combined 100cc junior class and a combined 100cc senior class. So those will round out the categories for 2020 season. Missing and out this year are X30 Senior, Micro Swift, and Kid Kart that were in from last year. So those three categories we are not returning.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, the Man Cup has kind of become the East Coast, national, let's say East Coast national, regional, whatever you want to call it, program for Rock Cup USA, right? They've brought all the categories in. They still have their well-supported Mini Swift, X30 Junior, and Briggs Cadet classes. But for the most part, it's become a Rock Cup program for the East, and it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, I think.
Yeah, and it's a great, again, in order to grow, you can't just be top level, and I think Rock Cup sees that, and now so they're working with WKA to help grow more of a base, because again, a lot of WKA racers come from the club levels, so it's a great way to help grow the Rock Cup USA program. And
one of the other components of the change, you said it well with the Rock Cup program. I was just going to roll into the fact, one of the other changes is schedule-wise. They bring back the Florida Winter Cup Series using Daytona and Orlando in February, late February, I guess, February 21, 22, 23 for the second round of the Florida Winter Cup Series at Orlando. But then they changed around the Man Cup schedule as well, David. It's kind of something that you've been kind of pushing at and asking for, and less is more is the word we always use, and WK obviously seeing that, maybe hearing that, and they cut their schedule down for 2020 as well.
Yeah, if you look at the overall picture, they still have 7 events that they're going to do through 2020. But for Manufactured Cup alone itself, it's just now down to 4 events because, again, less is more. And so you begin here with Daytona. You move to Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's moved to April weekend of 17, 8 through 19. Newcastle Motorsports Park in July 10, 11, and 12. So that's going to be the 3rd event of the year. And then the finale is going to be down at the Orlando Kart Center in October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So a great section of different areas of the East Coast, because you have your Charlotte, you have your Newcastle to hit the Midwest. Everybody goes to Daytona, and then you go back to Florida to wrap it all up. So a great cross section regarding different regions of the East Coast. So that's a great plus. And again, only having 4 events, it allows people to be able to go off and continue to focus on their club racing, or do other regional programs, or do national events, and still be able to have the opportunity to race for a Manufacturers Cup Series title.
Okay, let's focus now on the Manufacturers Cup opener, which is Daytona KartWeek. Let's talk a little bit about it. 165 total pre-entries. They had to lock things down, at December the 10th, because you'll hear from when I talk to Kevin Williams that they kind of have to lock everything down because they essentially load the entire shop and the entire office into the trailers, head down to Daytona to start setting up. So 165 is the total pre-entries. David, what are you hearing in terms of big numbers?
Well, I think the biggest, from the numbers that we got from WKA, the biggest categories that are at the event are 3 of them, and they're all above 30 drivers for pre-entries. We knew Briggs 206 Cadet was going to be big again this year as it was last year, but to reach that number is huge for that category, and shows a lot of youth that are still behind the Manufacturers Cup program. And of course, the 100cc categories are going to be big as well, and they're above 30 with both in junior and senior. It's really kind of where the numbers were last year towards the end of the season for Manufacturer Cup Series, with those three categories really standing out as the lead categories, and they're continuing now heading into Daytona. So that's going to be big. Those are going to be fun classes to watch, really.
Interesting note that you have down in our script, David, talking about the fact that only 2 drivers actually racing in 3 classes. Normally that's something we used to see all the time, but only 2 drivers doing the triple.
Yes, back in, over a decade ago, when they had, 3 classes basically per age group. You had your HPV, you had your Comers, you had your Yamahas for all cadet, junior, and senior. Well, senior had tag and Yamaha and KPV and everything. So guys were really used to doing that triple stint per day, and it kept things a lot busy, especially with having 3 different karts all under the same tent, just for one driver. It kept things a lot busy, and it was a very common thing we used to see, guys doing three categories. Now it's down to really only 2 categories per series that we go to, really typically per age group. So this is a unique event because we haven't seen 3 classes for an age group in a long time. But now that we have Mini Swift and Micro Swift or Micro Rock, and then the Briggs Cadet, that allows 3 cadet categories. Parker DeLong is going to be the lone cadet driver doing all 3. And then in junior, you have X30 Junior, you have 100cc Junior, and you have Junior Rock. And the only driver doing that is Connor Zillage. So those 2 drivers are going to have a very, very, not necessarily them because they just get in and drive, but their parents, their mechanics, their whoever's around them is going to be busy. That's for sure. So
do you want to jump into some of the categories here a little bit and talk about who we're looking at? What do you think?
I think one of the notable things to kind of watch will be in the senior rock division. We have a driver as Luca Mars moving up to the senior ranks. He's been he was one of the top junior drivers throughout 2019 season, along with Luke Lang, another top junior driver. These 2 guys are moving up to senior, so that's going to be interesting to watch. But the one guy that's going to be in that category with them that was one of those guys who used to run 3 categories per day, Santino Ferrucci, the IndyCar driver that we have gotten to know over the last decade, if not longer than that, from kid karts all the way up through now into IndyCar. You get to interview him here once in a while during the IndyCar radio broadcast, but he's coming back to his roots, and it's got to be at least 5, 6, 7 years that he has been at Daytona KartWeek.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking the last time you probably interviewed him at a kart race. I'm thinking it might have been when he was running JICA. I don't even did he run any senior karting here?
I don't know. No senior karting. So it could be late 2000s then. Yeah. So we could be 10 years ago.
So he's going to run, I believe, with Chris Rock Motorsports on a Swiss Hot List. He's been doing some testing. So he's been in the kart. So it'll be interesting to see what Santino could do. He could race for the win, but as you said, he's going to run against some young guns here right now. Luca Mars, Edward Ports, Luke Lang, Julia Booz is racing as well. This should be interesting.
Well, he's doing double duty because he's also racing in the senior 100cc category too. But that class is loaded with talent. You got Brandon Jarzakrak being one of them. Luca Mars is doing double duty as well. Luke Lang doing double duty. So a lot of strong drivers are going to be in that 100cc category.
Yeah, I'm scrolling down. I'm scrolling down through it. Yeah.
The Bailiff brothers from Trinity Karting Group. They're gonna drop the shifter in the X30 and go to 100cc category. So that'll be cool to see. Both Venbergs, Ari and Jake, going to be racing. So and Julia Booz is a good one in 100cc as well.
How about Super Nationals winner Paulie Massimino?
That's right. Yeah, right? You cannot forget that.
No way. Garrett Adams too, gonna run. Man, I'm scrolling down here, loving it.
So it's gonna be a good field, and I think the junior 100cc category is just gonna be just as strong as well. A lot of young drivers that were racing junior will be back again. Adam Maxwell is Connor one of them. Connor Zillage, obviously super fast doing the triple duty. But you also have some cadet drivers moving up. Adam Brickley is one of them. So he's going to be, I believe he was a champion in WKA.
Anderson Leonard too.
Yep, Anderson Leonard, another one moving up. Logan Adams, he ran junior this past year, was one of the top drivers in junior, so he'll be back. So those three categories are going to be fun to watch, and then there's a lot of young guns in the mini Swift, and especially in the Briggs 206 Cadet. That in that category, you just never know who's going to stand out because the competition is so tight.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through it real quickly, right? You got Ben Mayer, you got Parker DeLong, Arrington Grimm. We're talking race winners, right? Austin Olds was so good at the Super Nationals. He was fast. He and Spencer Conrad, of course, going at it at the Super Nats. You just keep scrolling up to some of these names of guys that have got, Jacob Shively. The guys we've been talking about for a full year, David. I think this race is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
Oh, without a doubt. Anytime you get karts 30 or more, you just kind of like, all right, let's see who's able to unshake everybody.
I like it. So there, folks, a little look at some of the categories at the WK Manufacturers Cup component of WK KartWeek, which is coming up between Christmas and New Year's. You know what? This is part of the OutLap program. I actually had a chance, as I said before, to talk to WK President Kevin Williams. Here's the interview that I had with Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here on the EKN Radio Network and our third edition of this OutLap podcast. I'm sure that we're talking right now on December the 19th. It is it's a week away essentially from the race, over a week away rather from the race. WK KartWeek, you're the WK president. I got to expect that you've had your head down for the last couple of months because I just don't think anybody understands how much work goes into putting on three major events at Daytona International Speedway.
Absolutely. And this is our 45th edition at Daytona for the Daytona KartWeek, which is a feat in itself. And, it's hard enough to put on a national race for one series, but to do three of them,
right.
Thankfully it's at the same facility, which, our partners at Daytona International Speedway are just fantastic. But we basically start planning for Daytona mid-January. So this is an all-year affair between our amazing people in our office, all of our officials and workers, volunteers, and then, of course, in conjunction with the Speedway. It's a huge undertaking, but, listen, we do it for one reason only, and that's for the racers. So we subscribe to the same theory that the Speedway does. If we have a safe, successful event with great racing, then everybody wins.
So here's a question. Obviously you've been in the position as WK president for a little while now. You've coming in inheriting a lot of the, let's say some of the issues you had to deal with, some of the positives. How much of the WK KartWeek is plug and play based on the fact you've been there so long? Like you said, the 45th anniversary of the program starting back in 1974 with the road race program. How much of it is plug and play? How much are you just kind of getting back and doing what you did before? But how much is new? How many hurdles do you have to go through in a new year?
Well, anybody in karting will say that you never have seen it all, right? Yeah. And same with any motorsport. But you have to surround yourself with a strong community, and the folks of the Speedway are just that, along with our staff. And a lot of our staff they're in their either anywhere from fifth year to 25th year at Daytona. So some of those things are organic and natural, but we still have to keep up with the times and keep things fresh. This year, we actually added starting lanes in the sprint track, first time ever at a WK race. Still need to keep things updated and fresh, even though we're at the same facility. And let's face it, who doesn't want to be in Florida in December, right?
That's exactly it. And then the funny thing is that you said it. There's a lot of work going on. I saw it on social media, and that you guys had posted a photo of the staging lanes, the tram lanes going in for the starts on the sprint track. Overall, how are pre-race preparations going? Are you happy with the prep that's been done so far?
I am. We are happy with the preparations, and again, it's a huge attribute to our team that has done this before. But also, listen, the racers give us input, and I mean that's what an association of WK is getting input from our membership. But we're real pleased. We, one thing we're not really all that fond of is we have to stop taking pre-registrations December 10th. And the reason for that is literally our entire office gets loaded into 2 trailers and goes down.
Yep. Yeah.
Between the 13th and the 17th of December. And as you mentioned earlier, you saw some of the photos that we put on social media that we do a complete setup, because then people can come back, relax, do a couple last minute button up things, enjoy Christmas and holidays with their family. And then, before sunup on the 26th, we all head south.
That's it, right? Okay, so let's talk Manufacturers Cup. David and I just kind of went over how the Bridgestone Manufacturers Cup Series program is rolling out for this year at KartWeek. A new relationship for the WKA with the Rock Cup Promotions and Rock Cup USA. Can you talk a little bit about WKA bringing on their officials as well, including the race director, Chuck Yoder?
Yeah, so Chuck has been a part of WK for a long time, and he's done other things with Rock and Rotax over the years.
Indeed.
And he's very well respected. He himself has built a decent team with the Rock guys, and so we wanted to bring that professionalism to the Manufacturers Cup. Not that I don't enjoy doing race director duties, but I got to be presidential also. But,
a little busy, right?
Yeah. So, so that professionalism and that experience is coming to the Manufacturers Cup with him and his team, and also with our new partner, Rock Cup USA. Those racers, they will see a more seamless transition from just a standard Rock Cup race to another association, WK, putting on a national race on their behalf.
David and I talked earlier in the podcast here about the fact that the new format for 2020 is, day 1, practice and qualifying, day 2, the progressive heat races, then single final on day number 3. I want to get your thoughts on the new format because David and I have always been asking for one winner events, right? As a journalist covering a race, you want to lead the track and say, this is the guy or girl that won the race, right? At this particular track.
That's right.
As opposed to, I won on Saturday,
yeah.
He won on Sunday, so we're both kind of winners. So what do you think about it?
That's right.
What are your thoughts?
We go to an IndyCar race, one guy kisses the trophy. Yep. You go to a NASCAR race, one driver kisses that trophy. And, we're just as exciting as any of those, and we being karting. And I think it is a much more successful event when you just have the one champion, the one winner, the one person that worked all through those heat races. Because listen, qualifying heat races, I mean, that's just equally, if not more important than how they work out the final, right? So, we really wanted to make sure that that our events were something special, and to have that coveted prize, I mean, that just brings the bragging rights right back up, and makes for great championships at the end of the season as well.
Well, Kevin, that's true for sure. But the interesting thing is, I've been around a long time. You've been around a long time. IKF days, Stars of Karting days, CIK days, or CKI days. The industry goes back and forth. The community does, right? They love the one winner. And then they go back and forth. Well, if you had 2 main events, and if you have a bad race on Saturday, you get to come back on Sunday and race again, right? And then we go back to, hey, we want one single winner. We always seem to go back and forth on that.
Yeah, that's interesting too. But with the format of having heat races, etc., you can still have a bad Saturday and recover on Sunday and still come out as the winner. There's been plenty of CIK races where people had to race into the second chance heat and start last in the final and still come out winners, even at World Championship level. So the beautiful thing is we provide enough track time, enough heat race opportunities. The qualifying format is qualifying practice, so they're on track for 7, 10, 12 minutes, whatever the number is, and have plenty of time to make up for that as well.
Kevin, one of the things I wanted to bring up with you, Dave and I talked about the fact that there's no X30 Senior this year. There's no Micro Swift on the Manufacturers Cup. There's no Kid Kart either. But you guys have put a straight-up Kid Kart National Championship program together for Orlando, Charlotte, Newcastle, and Whiteland. What was the idea behind what led to the separation of the class from the Manufacturers Cup to make it its own national championship?
A lot of thought went into that. A lot of thought, a lot of input from the parents, a lot of input from parents that haven't even gotten to kid karts or already graduated from kid karts. Our situation at Daytona is, number one, daylight.
We know
number
that,
two,
right?
Yep. Number two is how do you best service the community for people that are coming? In the case of the IME 30, I mean, IME's been a great partner. However, those drivers, we would see them only the one time a year. And, in essence, it was an average of 8 racers at every single race for the course of the year, if not less. And so we wanted to make that time slot available for other racers. And in the case of the kid karts, I mean, that's the future of our sport, right? So, it's really a development. We're the only association that brings kid karts on a national level. The only ones. So sure. We thought we would better serve that community by offering them their own national championship. You go to an IndyCar race and they're not always racing with the Indy Lights, right? You go to a NASCAR race and the Xfinity drivers are not always racing with the Monster Cup guys. It's the same type of scenario. We had X number of dates and we can highlight the kid karts in their own races with these other programs. So their first race is actually in February at Orlando, which we all know is 2 miles from the entrance to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, true enough.
So I mean, and that could be helpful too, and could be a good experience for those families. And that's a great track for the kid kart age. And then we wrap them up, and they're included in the Grand National event at Newcastle for the Man Cup. And then they have their own Grand National at the end of the year too. So nice. That way it kind of highlights them. We didn't want to give the impression we were taking anything away from them, but we wanted them to see that we're presenting them more than we ever have.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I like that. That's an interesting deal. I know that the kid kart families are very passionate about being in the sport. They really want to be able to race and compete. So I like this. I like this program. Now let's cap off. Sure. Let's cap things off, Kevin, on this edition of the OutLap again, talking with WKA President Kevin Williams. The new season begins with Summit Racing Equipment becoming the presenting sponsor of the WKA. I think that's huge to get a kind of out of karting, company coming in to support the sport. They obviously see that we're the grassroots level, the foundation of all of motorsports. Can you tell us how that deal came about? What are some of the benefits that WKA members are probably going to see with this new partnership?
Yeah, so this relationship kind of started the beginning of last year, and when you're mid-season, as you well know, Rob, budgets are either committed or spent by mid-year, right? So it was difficult to ask for a full sponsorship deal and put them in that position. But Summit Racing is like any other company that wants to dabble in karting. They want to have access to their brand in front of people that they would not normally have access to, and that's kind of what a partnership does. Indeed. And a lot of my goals have always been to find partners from outside the sport, which you're starting to see us do on a larger level. I've had probably 4 conversations this week with folks from outside the sport because I wanted to not only help the sport, but help the people in the sport. So our relationship with Summit, and they've been extremely generous. They're actually provided us with a load of discounts and gift cards for our drivers, which we'll give away throughout the year in all of our programs, from dirt to road race to sprint racing, as well as discount code coupons, which, if somebody didn't get the gift card, they can still take advantage of some discounts by shopping at summitracing.com. So that was really it. And they've been so generous and so nice. I mean, they've provided our podium winners with caps and things like that. And we started at Charlotte last year where they actually they turned up with easy ups to give away, which we gave away to the drivers, and nice strong ones too. Lounge chairs for the people in their pit spaces. They provide decals and coupon books, and the racers have responded. I mean, I've bought all K&N filters for all my cars through them. So it's working for them. It's working for us. And, everybody wins. And you're going to see more of that out of WK in the future.
Well, Kevin, obviously a lot of work being done between the end of last year and the start of this year. And, of course, that's not the only time, right? It's not in that window. You guys constant
Right.
racing. You say it happens between the last race and the first race, but no way. It's as you said, you had a bunch of conversations already, and I'm sure it's going to happen over the next 12 months as well. But hey, congrats, number one, on all the success, what you guys have been able to do to kind of evolve the program. I think the Rock Cup USA partnership is going to be interesting. It's going to afford Rock Cup racers a series that they're going to be able to run on the East Coast, which I think will probably eventually gain some good momentum. You got some strong numbers as well for Man Cup and 206 Cadet and both the 100cc junior and senior classes. As you said, when you have to wrap up pre-registration December 10th, you're going to get lots of walk-up because you guys have had so busy. You have lots of at-track entries, but even road race looks like it's some pretty amazing numbers. The laydown stuff's coming back a bit. Rick Folks and I chatted about that. We'll talk about that more in the podcast, later in the podcast. But there's just a lot of momentum right now for WKA in a bunch of different areas.
There is, and our dirt program has gained a lot of speed. We made a big impact with our Daytona event last year, and then of course at Charlotte. I mean, we would post a video on social media of that Charlotte track. It's the largest go-kart track anybody's ever seen. Even though we cut it down from their regular size, and within hours we'd have 50, 60,000 views of people saying, we're tagging their friends, load up your cart and show up. And now we're starting to see that with Daytona also. And the folks that we have helping us prepare tracks has just been a godsend to the dirt racer because, Daytona is such a unique surface being at the beach and so different than the clay type surface you see at Charlotte. So we expect really big numbers from the dirt program. We're already up about 25% at the road race program. Like you said, a lot of the laydown guys are coming back. We added a couple engines. We added the VLR to the 100cc package, so that naturally brought some people. We made some more safe rules or user friendly rules in road racing, so that's helpful. And since I've been president, I've spent a lot of time building back bridges that may have been lost at some point, and that's starting to pay off as well because of our relationship with some partners that, some tracks and some clubs and things like that have really helped our schedule come together for road racing as well. And as David will tell you, on the sprint side, we went down from 6 races to 4 races on their National Manufacturers Cup. And that allows people, in our partnership with Rock Cup, we alleviated 6 races on a national scale in the course of the year. That frees up the karters' time. And so it allows them opportunity to come to the races and still go to the lake and enjoy the boat on the day they want to.
And sure enough.
So, everybody wins. And again, we do this for the racers.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here on the OutLap. We appreciate it.
Excellent show. Good luck with it. Thank you for having me.
Kevin Williams, folks, the president of the WKA. More to come, folks. We got lots to talk about after this break here on the EKN Radio Network. With over 35 years of manufacturing experience, Precision Karting Technologies is the leader in American-made components. We produce high-quality products, led by our full line of chromoly and mild steel axles. Metric or imperial, standard or custom, we have what you need. Collars, keys, bearings, we're the source for axle components in the USA. We're not just axles either. At PKT, we can manufacture motor mounts, hubs, brake rotors, and even GoPro mounts. We're also the choice for axle and chassis straightening. We've designed a dedicated table for the sole purpose of straightening and laser aligning your chassis. If needed, we have the capability to cut, replace, and weld portions of your chassis as well. Big crash bent your frame? Send it to us. Broke a spindle yoke off in a wreck? We can replace it. You don't need to toss that expensive frame in the trash bin. We can fix it. We can repair and straighten chassis, and we CNC machine the finest karting products in the country. With over 70 dealers throughout the US and Canada, it's easy to choose PKT. Family owned and operated, proudly made in the USA. PKT. What's in your cart? In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience. And we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at franklinkart.com, where all of our products are just a mouse click away and we ship daily. We're constantly adding new products to our online store, so keep checking back. We specialize in IAME engines, Tillet seats, and of course, our championship-winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find molecule cleaning products, minus 273 racing gloves, micron gauges and components, and both MG and Bridgestone tires. If you're ready to take your racing to the next level, come and join us at Team FMS. We've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for many years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event, to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For 2019, we'll be attending the SuperKarts USA Winter Series, WKA Manufacturers Cup, United States Pro Kart Series, and the Route 66 Kart Racing Series. And we'd love to have you under our tent at Merlin Nation. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag racing, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American four-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howard alongside David Cole. This is episode number 3 of the EKN OutLap. David and I previewing the upcoming WKA KartWeek. We've wrapped things up with the Manufacturers Cup Series. As you heard before the break, I had a chance to speak with WKA President Kevin Williams. David, let's go into kind of another part of your wheelhouse, and that's the Vega National Road Racing Series. There's kind of a cool little, let's say, is it revitalization? Would that be the good word? A resurgence potentially of road racing, more series kind of working together with each other. We're seeing a resurgence in guys running laydown categories, which I think is super cool. What are your thoughts on the road racing program? I know you've been down there. You're a former racer down at Daytona.
Yeah, my first year was 96. And yeah, there's a bit of a resurgence. I think that's a good word because it's, as you said, road racing is a different animal in terms of karting because the facilities we go to are expensive as hell. And there's no beating around it. And, I don't think people understand that, David. That's one of the biggest hurdles, especially sprint guys don't realize what it costs per day to get one of these big tracks. Well, yeah, you hear guys bitching about racing at the Super Nationals for what, $1,200? That includes 2 sets of tires and fuel and oil.
Yeah.
And they're bitching about racing for 5 days outside a Las Vegas hotel. And I'm like, man, some guys would pay that just to race at Daytona. And thankfully, prices still are at $150 just to race one class in road racing, and to pay for a facility. Now again, Daytona is a different monster, but you go to other just regular club, like country club style tracks that are 2 miles or longer, and you're looking at anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per day, and that's per day. That's Friday $10,000, Saturday $10,000. Sunday, $10,000. So you need to bring in 30 grand in entry fees alone just to pay for the facility. That doesn't count ambulances. That doesn't count workers. That doesn't count anything else you need to bring in to make the event go on. So that's one of the things that people don't really understand about road racing. But thankfully, we're again, not everybody wants to get into a lay down and race. So that's always the other hurdle that sport has. So it's allowing the guys that race at sprint tracks and coming directly to a road race and not having to change anything. That's the easiest way to get people hooked on the speed of road racing, because again, everything's so flat out.
Yeah. Well, so talk about the event at Daytona that is part of the Vega National Road Racing Series. Great thing about it is, and for me, David, and you obviously did this from 96 on, your family's done it forever. I remember the first time I got a chance to road race. I think it might have been the only road race I've ever done was at Mid-Ohio. I think it was 2000 or 2001. I got a chance to race there. There was 74 shifters in the category. I started right in the middle of 37th. But from then on, I remembered I could always say, later I got a chance to race a car there, but I got a chance to say I raced at Mid-Ohio. And I remember watching IndyCar races after that, that first time going, yeah, I remember that corner. This is an opportunity for someone to be able to drive the same layout, essentially the same layout other than the bus stop that the guys do in the Rolex 24. It's an amazing opportunity to get to race on the big banks at Daytona.
Well, yeah, just to hit the high banks alone in a kart. I mean, we talked about it when we went and did the Brickyard. We were going 40 miles an hour around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I didn't care how fast we were going. It's just to say we've been on there, and not just a recreational vehicle, but a racing machine. And yeah, you can. That's the great thing about Daytona KartWeek. You can come race the road racing part and be on the high banks. And it's not about where you finish. It's just about being out there and getting that chance to check it off the bucket list, and to be able to say, Hurley Haywood, Juan Pablo Montoya, all these guys who are, the Brabhams. I don't. There's so many names that have done the 24 hours of Daytona that are popping into my head right now that I can't say. But it's just to be on that historic circuit that have seen so many names do that same lap over and over again over a 24-hour period, and to race that. Now it's a little different, obviously, around the 3.56 mile course. The International Horseshoe, which is a very famous corner. A couple of years ago, WKA decided, I believe with Daytona International Speedway kind of suggesting it, they used that inner loop. I believe the bikes use that inner loop, if I'm correct in that, because it provides more space and in a little bit more safe area, especially with the merging of karts coming out of the pit. There was no real easy merge that allowed you to get into the International Horseshoe. So now when you come out of the pits, you go through the actual International Horseshoe, but the racetrack is the inner loop below that. So it's a great little safety. It's a little bit of a change, but not that much. And you're still racing Daytona. So I think people got over it really quickly.
Exactly right. And the one big one is we don't use the bus stop on the back straightaway, right?
That's huge. And again, like we talked about earlier, the track has gone through so many different changes, and they actually use the bus stop for some years. But because karts are going so fast and it takes very little to go through it, karts were going flat out through it. It became a bit of a safety hazard with slow karts and fast karts. And I believe there were some incidents that they decided, it's just a lot safer to eliminate the bus stop and go straight through it. So that's one of it. Another thing they used to do when they used to start, especially back when they had 140 karts in one class, they actually used to start from, again, because all road racing is Le Mans style start, where you come from a standing start and the green flag waves and you go. They used to go from pit lane right out onto the oval and do an entire lap around the oval before they ducked into the infield and did the regular 24-hour circuit. So they used to do that. Now they go directly right into the infield right away. So that's been a change. I don't even think I did it when I was there in the 90s. So it's been a long change. But again, just a little historic note that some of these guys used to do a complete lap around the oval, which would have been cool.
Wow, no doubt, right? So let's segue off of the fact you talked about the bus stop and that there was an issue potentially with some slower and faster karts, because one of the things about road racing is there are a lot of classes, right? They're all bunched into 7 race groups. So within any one of those race groups, you're going to have a different number of categories, from the Briggs 206s up to some of the Yamaha pipes. They, of course, do what they can to put the groups together in more light speed categories, but it's only so much you can do. And closing rate, like it is in the Rolex 24, is pretty great sometimes when you're hustling around in a B stock and you're rolling up against somebody who's maybe 10 or 15 seconds slower a lap.
Oh, without a doubt. Closing rates are insane. And watching, I mean, you can sit when we're at the sprint track and watching it a group of karts go through the turns 3 and 4 there, and then all of a sudden this fast kart comes around and passing them all, and like
on the high side. On the high side, right?
On the high side. It's amazing to watch.
It is amazing.
Especially in the shifter stuff. But as you said, there's 7 race groups per day. And basically what they do is they take the 72 classes that they have, and they it's a good mixture of championship point classes and then just local option classes they have for the Daytona event. They just mix them into 7 race groups per day. And again, as you said, they kind of base them off lap times and try to get to where the closing rate's not so humongous. Cadets have the track all on their own for one race group, so that's good. But you put some Briggs together with some Yamahas, and you put some Yamahas in with some of the faster categories, and you put some of the faster categories in with the shifters, and you put some of the shifters in with the unlimited. So it's finding that niche. And again, you want sit-ups with sit-ups and lay-downs with lay-downs. They try and do that as best they can as well too.
Talk a little bit about the difference in lap times, David, because I think the cool factor about road racing is you talk about cadets and the Briggs Junior 206 guys being out there as well. These young kids getting a feel for road racing, which is so cool. Then you get like the veterans like Johnny West in the limited category, Brian Wilhelm, the Folkses out there, Keith Freber. These guys are laying down some pretty amazing lap times.
Oh, it's unreal. It is unreal. Now, again, because we skipped the bus stop, you can't equate it to the same as the Rolex 24 lap time. So it's hard. Tracks like Mid Ohio, we can kind of relate to where they do because it's very similar racetrack there too as well. But cadets and junior Briggs, now these are the slowest categories of the event, and they're running about a 3-minute, 15-second lap time, and that's a lot of flat out on the gas. I don't even know if they slow down when they come into the infield.
Probably not.
Probably not. But and so you go from that, and then you get into the 2-minute ranges for a lot of the lay down categories, a lot of the shifter categories, a lot of the tags. All those categories kind of fall in between a 2-minute and a 3-minute lap time. But really, the ultimate is the unlimited class, as you said, like a Johnny West or Rick Folks in a B stock laydown, or Brian Wilhelm in a 250 laydown, or even the 125s are really fast as well in the laydown. Last year, Johnny West did a minute 53 lap time in his 250 supercart. So it's insane the amount of speeds. And again, that's not the fastest that's ever been at Daytona. It's got to be within probably a second or two of the quickest lap done in a kart. But again, you're talking top speeds of probably 150 to 160 miles per hour.
That's crazy. That's awesome. All right, let's talk about the classes. What do you got down right now for the 4 largest classes going into the road racing component of WKA KartWeek?
Well, again, like I talked about earlier, it's that bringing sprint racers in and coming over and being able to come and do that bucket list event, and a lot of them still follow the road racing series pretty well. And one of the biggest gatherings I think that we'll see during Daytona Kart Week is the Briggs 206 CIK category. And again, it's just your the same karts you can race at Cup Karts North America or KPX out on the West Coast, or any other Briggs 206 class that you might have at your local track. You can bring that same kart, change the gearing a little bit, and go out and race Daytona. We have 33 pre-entries so far. They'll probably get close. They'll probably get above 40 as they did last year, and maybe even close to 50 guys out there. Just again, you're talking maybe a 2-minute, 50-second lap time, I believe, somewhere in that range. And a lot of it is just drafting and on the gas. There's not a lot of driving input into that class.
It's strategy and being smart and patient, right?
Exactly. It's a long chess game, a long, slow chess game. Miami Sprint is another one of those that you'll see a lot of big packs racing together. They have 26 in that category. So again, you have your X30 or your even Leopards. Some guys still run the Leopards. Take them from the sprint track and go hit the big track with a change of just the gearing. So again, that's a really cool deal. Tag overall, so that's a mixture of all the different tag engines that are out there. That's up at 22 per day, so 22 entries there. And again, lay down categories, it's always changing. When we were there in the 2000s, it was 100cc controlled was really growing, and that kind of fizzled away. and then it came back to Yamaha Sportsman. Now everybody's kind of moving over to Yamaha Senior, where they were able to put on all the different pipes, exhaust systems that they want on in there. That's at probably 19 and could probably be growing to anywhere between 30 to 40 karts.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Over 200 pre-entries coming in before that pre-entry registration deadline. Numbers expected to be well over the 300 mark, David, if not more. That's a pretty solid number for road race down at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, again, these
days.
Yeah, these days it is. Back in the 80s, as I mentioned earlier, they had over 1,000 entries during the 80s. Again, categories with 130, 140 karts all in. And it was all laydowns, really, because the sprint kart portion of road racing didn't really come until the early 90s when we started seeing sprint karts moving into the road racing part of it. It all used to be based around laydown karts. So, I mean, you think about it, 1,000 laydown karts. Like I wasn't actually at Daytona during those years, but in the early 90s, there were still, you still had fields of 20, 30, 40 guys in laydown karts. And it's just amazing just to watch laydowns going through the tri-oval all together. It's an amazing sight, something that it's rare nowadays. And I always appreciate it every time I see it.
Well, speaking of laydown karting, obviously the actual enduro side of road racing, one of the most famous families, the first family essentially of Daytona, is the Folks family, Father Reggie, and of course both Randy and Rick driving as well. I actually had a chance to catch up with Rick Folks. We talked about WKA KartWeek yesterday. Well, I would like to welcome into this edition of the EKN OutLap a veteran driver in the sport, one of the legends, of course. Rick Folks, Daytona is part of your family's legend, its history, its story. First off, thank you for joining us here on the OutLap.
Thanks, Rob. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's something you guys do every year. It's especially since kind of the advent of social media and Facebook. I'm always waiting for that picture from your shop with you guys getting the karts all prepped up, getting ready to go to Daytona. It's kind of like a rite of Daytona to see that coming down the pipe. Are you guys ready to go?
We're pretty close. We're almost ready. We haven't loaded yet. Still got a few things left to do. Actually, when I get done here, I'm heading over to the shop to finish up. Kind of funny story about that picture is I think I posted the first one, I don't know, like in 2013 or something.
Yeah.
And that was, it came with mixed reviews within the team. My brother said, "What are you doing showing everybody our stuff in advance?" And my dad was like, "You need to show that more and more." So every year I get pressure from my dad, my 94-year-old father, to post another picture. He's big time into Facebook and all the karting sites.
Well, the cool thing about it is the fact that where you guys race, and in the laydown world, it's such a custom karting world, as opposed to nowadays it's arrive and drive. It's you just pick up a kart, you put an engine on it, and you go racing. It's all spec. Mm-hmm. What you guys do is more like prototype, kind of 24 hours of Daytona, Le Mans 24 hour, where it's all kind of super secretive, skunk works kind of stuff. Where I'm sure Randy didn't want anybody to see whatever it was, new fairing or how low the seat was or whatever you guys did, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's truly an art form. There's a lot of ingenuity and a lot of engineering goes into a road race kart. Like you said, it's not like a CIK sprint package where everything you buy at the kart shop and you bolt on. And that's good and bad. It's bad because a lot of engineers and ingenuity has moved past this generation. That's kind of more of an old school kind of thing. But for the ones who do participate, I think they really enjoy the road racing. And, not to say they like it better or worse than sprint racing. It's just a different animal.
Folks, speaking with Rick Folks, one of the legendary drivers from the WKA, and I guess any kind of karting, the road racing world, him and his family, the Folks, have been around forever. Let's look back, Rick, first. When was your first Daytona KartWeek that you raced?
That's a good question. I am not much of a historian. I talked to DC, and he can tell me what happened in '83 at some race. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I was 12, So
do the math.
Do the math. Yeah. And I've been to I think I missed, what is this, the 45th?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Daytona KartWeek coming up. So I've been to every one but one or two over all those years. So I've been doing it a long time.
Wow, okay. That's solid then. I think 74 was the very first year. They only missed 2 years in there but for road racing. So you were at all of them. That's pretty cool. Now, okay, you don't remember the first time you drove there. Do you remember the first time you won at Daytona?
I do. It was a monumental event in my career because, unlike these guys that say, I went out, started go-kart racing and, I lapped the field first race, or I was winning by the midway through the first season. I was terrible. It took me probably 3 years to even crack in the top 5. I just didn't get it. And then one year, we were racing down in Texas. I basically just jumped into road racing first. I got into sprint racing later because that's what the family was doing. And I was a 12-year-old kid. I couldn't go on my own. So, about, 15 years old, I won a race against some pretty top-notch competition at the time. And then I went to the next race and won. I won a race at Road Atlanta, and it was like a switch flipped in my head, and we went to Daytona and beat some of the top guys of the day, and that was kind of in my mind. I thought, well, hey, I actually kind of can do this.
Okay, first of all, what class was it? Do you remember the year?
It was what they call it, 100cc controlled stock junior. So what year no, I don't remember the year. I'd be guessing it was somewhere in the 80s, late 80s.
Okay. Yeah. We'll fast forward from the 80s to 2017. You took a GoPro in-kart video, the onboard video, right? Riding your B stock around Daytona.
Unlimited.
Was it unlimited? Okay. In unlimited. Yeah. We put it on the EKN Facebook page. David set it up, made a cool thing, put it on the EKN Facebook page. And over the last year and a half or 2 years, the video has gained almost 1 million views, which we always go look at it. We're blown away by how many people have watched that video of you driving around Daytona. Can you describe, other people can watch it, but can you describe what it feels like to go that fast and inch off the ground at a historic place like Daytona?
It's kind of surreal. It's pretty awesome. In the back of your mind, I'll be honest with you, you are aware of how fast you're going, especially when you hit the high banks going into NASCAR 3 and 4. And, you're just hoping that it tracks the way it's supposed to. It moves along pretty good. And the only other time when you're really aware of the speed is when you get, through the tri-oval and you get into the braking zone. And, you're shutting it down to go into turn 1. And knowing that I have the video on, I was aware that I had a sizable lead, but I had a feeling this video was going to get put out there. So I didn't want to drive like a big sissy going into turn 1. So actually, if you watch the video first, I think it was the first 2 laps, I kind of baby it going into the corner, but lap 3 or 4, I go in there pretty good. And then by that time I'm back on cruise because I'm trying to preserve the lead and not be that idiot that's got a 25-second lead.
That's right. That's right. And not play for the people that may be watching the GoPro video, right? And then you find out that it ends up being over 1 million views or almost 1 million views, which is crazy. Now, okay, let's start. This is the OutLap podcast for the WKA KartWeek. So let's talk about this KartWeek. What classes are you going to be running this year?
I'm going to run 3 classes this year, and none of them are really related to each other. I'm going to run 100cc controlled on the first day. Then also on the first day, I'm going to run B stock, which is the dual engine kart. And then on the second day, I'm just going to run Yamaha pipe because after Pittsburgh earlier this year with 30 some entries, in today's era, that's an awesome turnout for a laydown class. There's rumors that the Yamaha pipe class at Daytona will be over 40 karts. So I didn't want to miss out on that. So I'm going to spend all day, the second day, switching the control kart over to Yamaha and try to try to see if
Hey,
I can
listen,
hang with those boys.
as a lifelong road racer, lay down guy, I've always I've been a big fan of watching it since I started in the sport with National Kart News. Back in the mid '90s rather. The flow of lay down stuff has kind of waned off a little bit, right? Like you said, it's more of a custom deal where you buy a chassis, you build it yourself, you fit your own bodywork, you do all your own fine tuning to it. Driving it is, of course, an art form as well. I think it's almost like a lost art. But all of a sudden, there's been this pushback, even about not a bunch of younger guys kind of coming in to have 30 plus in a lay down category. How does that make you feel about the future of that class?
I can tell you that, 3-4 years ago, road racing was on life support, and everybody kept thinking that, everybody better soak it up because this stuff's going to go away. There's just not enough to sustain it. But there's been enough, a love of the sport and enough people who are pushing in all the right ways, I think, to help grow it. I'm super excited, everywhere from. And it doesn't have to be the lay down stuff, but that is an art form that I don't want to see go away. And, the stigma from the Man Cup side, from the sprint side, from the Scusa racers and the street racers and all the guys that were running the sprint carts was that, you go out there and lay down on your back and drive around and eat a sandwich while you go down the straightaway and it's not real racing. I'll tell you some of the things that really helped push this current wave is, some of the well thought of sprint racers like Mikey Geeson and, Evan Stommer, who's just kind of stepped into road racing, people like that who are trying the lay down stuff, reporting back on social media how much fun this is.
That's it.
And I think it's gaining some traction. My little plea to people who are thinking about it is, one, if you ever think about, racing something other than karts and you want to get in a car, there's no better way to learn a track, or an actual track that you'll probably be on later with the car than racing a lay down kart, because you become part of that track. I mean, I know, when I ran a Porsche here and there for a couple different teams and, went to Mid Ohio racing with these guys that had all this experience and went out and, I was fastest guy on the team right out of the box. And they were like, wow, I'm like, well, I've raced Mid Ohio forever. I know this track, every inch of this track.
That's it. No, you're right. It's, the exciting thing is we're seeing that growth, that kind of rebirth, the resurgence of the laydown classes, like you said, the Yamaha category, Yamaha pipe looking so good, and numbers breed numbers. We always talk about that. The more guys that come out and play, it draws more guys out. When people see a class of 30, 35, man, that could be 40, 45 because it's so much fun. I've had a chance to run a laydown before. It's a ton of fun. I've never raced one. I've driven one. I drove a laydown pipe. I drove a laydown 125, an F125 shifter. That was ridiculous at Groton. Loved it. But you look at the other side of the spectrum as well. We're talking about kind of the rebirth of road racing a little bit, and you see the numbers that are in the Briggs 206 class. Drastically different speed, drastically different discipline. But they're going to have over 30, probably 35 or 40 Briggs 206s at Daytona as well. So if you're a Briggs racer who just maybe you ran the Cup Karts North America race at Newcastle, well, take your stuff and go to Daytona. You can say that you raced at Daytona. That's the beauty of it. One of the beauties of it, I think.
So back up for a second. What did you say you've never raced?
I've never raced a laydown before. Actually raced a laydown.
We need to remedy that.
Oh God! Well, let's talk about that. I would love it. I early in my career at National Kart News, I drove 2 sessions in a laydown pipe, Yamaha pipe at Road America, and I drove Robert Lawson's F125 at a test day at Groton, the laydown shifter. Okay. So that's the only time I've ever been in a laydown before.
Okay, well, those are 2 fun tracks to
they are
cut your teeth on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I did road race my shifter, my CTS 125 shifter. I think it was 2000 or 2001 at Mid Ohio, and that was one of the best times. I loved running road racing a shifter. It was so much fun, man.
When the transition came years and years ago from starting to have more of the sprint classes at the road race events, and in all honesty, it came out of necessity because the numbers weren't sustaining the cost of rental, so they had to figure out how to get more people to come to the track to help offset the cost. So of course there was that stigma of the sprint guys on the road race track, but that that whole temperature in the room has changed completely. We're super excited to see him there. I liken it to in my town here, the YMCA youth soccer. You go out there on a Saturday morning and there's 1,000 kids out in that field playing soccer. They're all about 2 feet tall. By the time you get to the high school and the college level, there's 20 kids playing soccer.
Yep.
But you've got to have that base. And that base comes from somewhere, and it's got to come from sprint racing. It's got to come from the 206. It's got to come from the shifter guys. It's got to come from everybody that wants to try it.
Agreed. No, I think you're exactly right. Okay, let's get back and cap off this particular segment talking with Rick Folks here on the EKN OutLap preview podcast of the upcoming WKA KartWeek. There's a rumor that we heard coming around. We're hoping it's not true, but I'm going to come to you because you're a family member. Obviously, the Folks family, synonymous with Daytona and the WKA Road Racing Series. We heard a rumor that this could be your brother Randy Folks' last Daytona. Is that true?
I think that's just wishful thinking from the competitors. No,
Okay.
It is not true. We're actually working as hard as ever on getting the stuff ready for Daytona and beyond. We've got a new trailer on order, so that would be news to me if he was quitting. We're planning on going full steam ahead for the next unforeseeable many seasons. Yeah, okay. The Hall of Famer. Well, actually, Reggie, my dad, Randy, my brother are both Hall of Famers. So they're both planning on being at the track as much as they can
I love it. That's what we wanted to hear. Hey, Rick, listen, I appreciate you joining us here on the OutLap. Thank you so much. And on behalf of David and I, good luck this year at Daytona.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
David, it's always a pleasure to talk to Rick. We get to see him a lot at the racetrack. He's one of the top race directors now in the sport. He's a driving instructor as well for his full-time job. But just the whole Folks family. They've been around the sport so long. Mr. Daytona himself, Randy Folks, as Rick had talked about, not retiring, which I love to hear. They bought a new trailer, so that means they're going to keep rolling. But the bottom line is, Randy Folks, David, 56 wins at Daytona. I'm not sure if he's entered in enough categories to go after number 60, but it's a possibility. 56 wins for Randy. That's absolutely amazing.
Well, that's why we call him Mr. Daytona. We've been calling him that for at least a decade now. I can remember back, and it's always easier to talk to Rick when he's not a race director. So it was a good conversation you guys had together.
We'd have to yell at each other or tell him what he was doing wrong, right?
Exactly. We didn't have to tell him what he was. Yeah, exactly. He tells us what we're doing wrong driving wise because he can do that. But we like to tell him what he's doing wrong race directing.
Dave, the interesting thing is before I talked to Rick, we moved to the interview we had. You and I talked about the fact there's a bit of a resurgence in the laydown stuff. You could just hear it in Rick's voice, couldn't you? That he number one, he loves being in the shop with the family, the work they do on their karts. I remember talking to Brandon Fry about it when I first was working for National Kart News back in the late 90s about road racing, and Brandon tell me how much work he had done to try to get himself lower in the kart, and they did some inner wheel wells, all the stuff they did, and then they'd come to Daytona and they'd see what Randy and Rick had on the kart. I'm like, oh my God. I remember taking a picture for National Kart News, and it had, I want to say it was Randy and Brandon, and I'm not sure who the other driver I had in their kart. So I had them like right in front of the Daytona sign on the wall on pit lane. I took a shot, really, a low down shot of all these three laydowns with the Daytona in the back, posed this cool picture. And when Brandon saw it, he's like, damn it. He goes, I thought I was so low in that cart, and in this picture, Randy's like 2 inches, his helmet's 2 inches lower than mine. It was so funny that Brandon was so pissed off about that.
Well, that's what kind of road racing has always been. It's not your cookie cutter type where you take everybody has a very similar or identical cart and you go out and racing. Road racing is still kind of that mechanics area where guys like to tinker on things, like to, again, especially at Daytona, it's all about aerodynamics. And so guys have been working for the last 12 months trying to better what they had last year as far as aerodynamics and try and get better any way they possibly can. But I think when you, like you were talking earlier and kind of what Rick mentioned, it's getting those guys who are interested in doing stuff like that. And even some of the vintage stuff, like guys are coming over and racing vintage laydowns from the 60s and 70s and even 80s like
your dad.
So it's just it's just getting back to basics type feel. And again, with road racing, it's not so much about the intense competition. It's just going out there and making laps and having a good time. But you have that side again, because you say that to Rick Fulks. You don't see that when he's in Daytona. Like, there's no fun Rick Fulks at Daytona. Like, he's all business out there because he wants to win and be the fastest. But you look throughout the other side of the paddock, and there's guys that are just happy to be there, and that's a great thing you have with road racing. And as he said, the laydown stuff is kind of coming back just because it's getting the eyes of some of the younger racers, like he said, Evan Stammer or Mike Eason, and that's and Patrick Olson. He's another one. He's doing he's got twin beast that he's going to be running in Unlimited. So that's going to be very interesting to see if we can keep getting some of these younger kids, I say kids, but younger people, younger generation involved in road racing.
Well, here's one thing I want to bring up too. Now, obviously, we take a chance to kind of educate people when we're doing an outlap like this who may be sprint racers, but they're listening to the whole podcast. One of the other cool things, and what is different about road racing too, unlike sprint racing where you maybe buy you're having a fresh chassis every time you're racing. If you're at the national level, every race is a new kart, or every couple races, or you buy a new kart every year, every 2 years. A lot of these chassis aren't getting made anymore, right? Guys are making custom chassis, but there's a lot of guys out there on Margays or CKIs or whatever that they've been driving for 10, 15 years, right? The chassis doesn't flex out as much. So you can run a chassis a lot longer. It's all about it's more like an F1 style where you're able to design, you're able to be innovative and change things around. There's just so much innovation and performance when it comes to road racing.
Yeah, guys will hack off, the C clamps and put on different ones, maybe between races, or they might add some bars here or there, but typically road racing chassis last year after year, and you don't have to go out and buy a new one. So that's almost an affordable style of racing is road racing, because you don't have to do anything to the kart if you don't want to. But yeah, there's changes here, there and there that you can do. But guys, as you said, guys aren't going out and buying a new frame after every race weekend for road racing.
Dave, the one part about that interview that kind of gave me the wigglies a little bit there was when Rick got all fired up that I never raced a laydown. You hear that part?
Yeah, well, I'm telling you what, if the invitation's there, because he's offered it to me many times, and I said no because I just don't trust myself. But you're obviously old enough to where you don't care anymore, and so you could just go out and do it. That's
true. And I can also go 75 or 80% around the racetrack and be very, very happy with myself being in a laydown. Like I said, I drove Robert Lawson's F125. He gave me the opportunity to drive that laydown shifter at Groton, and it was just ridiculously cool. So as soon as he jumped on that, I went, no, please don't. But I got some free weekends this year, so I don't know. We'll see.
Mid Ohio is calling you.
Oh my God. All right, we'll talk about that. I think that'd be super interesting. We'll see. I don't know. All right, listen, Dave. Let's cap this thing off. Let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about the Dirt World Championships. It's not something, again, as we said, we focused on. We had Kevin Williams gave us a little indication. Run through some of the specs of the event, just to kind of bring our sprint racing EKN Nation guys, sprint and road racing guys from EKN Nation up to speed on what's happening dirt wise.
Yeah, this is the 38th edition of the Dirt World Championships by WKA. Only 1 year was missed. That was since 1981. It's been again, it's had its ups and downs. Early, obviously, as we talked about earlier, when it was at the stadium, it had entries of probably 2,000. I want to say.
Yeah, I want to say over 2,000. Yeah, or 2,000.
So again, these are guys who race typically it's almost similar to like World of Outlaws and sprint and midget guys, where they just go and they race at different racetracks whenever they can, whenever the tire budget allows them, whenever their work schedule allows it. So it's a really cool and unique event. And again, it runs from the 26th to the 28th. 27th is the practice day. Right, I got those days mixed up. Sorry. The 27th is practice day. 28th is the first day of racing. 29th is day 2 of racing. And they saved the 30th in case rain does hit the area, because they can just move it to the next day.
Yeah.
Because again, these guys are racing for money. So they're there to win money. A number of the categories are done as a pro category. One of the things, though, about the event that has been a positive is the extensive track preparation that has been done over the last 2 years now with WKA and the Daytona International Speedway. Essentially, the Speedway has kind of just let the track sit there, as AMA doesn't use the facility, that track anymore. So WKA,
it was a flat. It was say that it was initially designed for not just for karting, but for the flat track bikes as well.
Exactly.
Right?
So during KartWeek or Bike Week, that's when it was used, and then it just sat. And so it was very unless you put the time and effort into it, the track was never really at a good raceable surface that a lot of these dirt races are used to, going to all the many different dirt tracks they go to. Last year, WKA brought in a few people to make sure the preparation's done correctly, and I think it was probably one of the best tracks they've ever had at the Daytona International Speedway, flat track that they do use now. And so they've taken that the same people, and they brought them back again this year. So they're hoping for an even better and smooth surface that they'll be racing on this year.
Yeah, 18 classes per day, 7 of those being warm-up races for the money race later in the day. One of the big supporters, of course, of the program is Maxxis Tires. Top 3 earn Maxxis Tires if you finish on the podium. As you said, David, though, 9 classes running for a cash purse. $1,500 purse for Junior 1, Junior 2, Junior 3, Semi-Pro Heavy, Super Heavy, and Senior Champ. $800 going to the winner. A $2,000 purse for Pro Stock Heavy and Pro Stock Medium. $1,000 going to the winner. $700 and $300 for the rest of the podium. $5,000 purse though for the All Pro category. $3,200 to win. Pretty solid cash there for the dirt component of KartWeek.
It's really cool to see these guys going at it, because it's really a race of inches, because any little mistake and another guy's going to take advantage of it, and then he's got 3 guys behind him that are going to go by. So you could lose 10 spots or gain 10 spots in a matter of one turn. So it's going to be very another exciting event. And one of the things that they're going to do this year now is they have an All Pro knockout race on day 2. They're going to take the top finishers from the All Pro event and do a 20-lap race. They're going to invert that field and do a 20-lap race with the last cart being black flagged off every 2 laps. I think they called that a Calcutta.
Australian Pursuit.
Australian Pursuit. That's what it was.
Calcutta is when you bet on a driver.
When you bet. Well, I'm sure there'll be some of that too, but
that could happen too. Yeah. Australian Pursuit.
Australian
like
Pursuit. That. Yeah. I remember doing this in sprint racing. We used to do this at club races once in a while. So it's a little fun, interesting thing. So it's $1,500 to win that race. And they'll do a $500 bonus if the winner of the All Pro race actually wins this knockout. So he'll be leaving there with, I believe, $5,200 in total.
Yeah, that's pretty good cash. So, that's pretty good cash. Yeah, the Australian Pursuit Supercarts USA used to do that as well. It's called the Dash for Cash, and that was for $1,000. I remember that. One of the other things as part of this program, David, is one of my favorite categories, and I remember when I first started seeing these carts when I went to the Tulsa Shootout. For the karting event there. Unlimited All-Stars also running on both days. These things are essentially the most badass deals you can have in dirt oval racing. Wedge bodies, a bunch of different engines, 450s, all these different engines that are built, but Unlimited All-Stars running there as well. I know that when you were there, you got a chance to watch it. Pretty cool.
They're amazing to watch. I think on the smoother track now, they're even quicker because, again, anytime there's bumps, it kind of slows their progress because they're really built around momentum and keeping on that gas through the corners to keep that downforce down. So not as many as they've had previously last year. So hopefully the numbers will grow for this year's event.
All right, folks, we're going to cap this thing off with one more break in the action. When David Cole and I come back from this little commercial break, we're going to talk about our own personal memories from our time at the WKA KartWeek.
Hi, EKN listeners. This is Jeff Wessel from Streeter Superstands. When it comes to lifts and stands for your carts and the largest selection of shop and trailer accessories, we know all about building and giving you the best. The Streeter Superstands crew has over 30 years of experience, are kart racers just like you, and know that the Streeter name stands for durability, affordability, and most of all, quality. We're the original and genuine manufacturer of Bigfoots and stacker stands, and we build them right here in the USA, along with our best-selling Streeter Superlift, upright stands, and an ever-growing roster of shop and trailer accessories to outfit any trailer or garage. While some guys pretend to be number one, we prove it every day, every race. Racers demand the best, and Streeter Superstand builds it. Check us out at StreeterSuperstands.com. When it comes to the best in lifts, stands, shop and trailer accessories, and all the cool necessities to make your race day easy and organized, it's all at StreeterSuperstands.com. We innovate, not imitate. Roll with the best right now at StreeterSuperstands.com.
History, success, family. Those are the three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis, and they have provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers throughout their near 6 decades of business. Comet's online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. Comet Kart Sales attends dozens of karting events every year, offering trackside service for racers and families. Karting veterans Mark Dismore Jr. and Gary Lawson provide one-on-one driver coaching and tuning assistance for each trackside customer. The engine building business, Comet Racing Engines, has won countless major events and championships over decades of karting, and they continue to offer the best trackside service in the industry. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be a part of the Comet Kart Sales family today.
When you think racing tire in the U.S., one name stands out: Huger. The history of Huger Racing Tire is one of an American dream and is the tire designed for champions. At the end of 2018, Margay Racing became the sole United States and Canadian karting distributor, establishing Hoosier Kartsport. Throughout 2019, Hoosier Kartsport has expanded the Hoosier brand to kart shops, tracks, clubs, and racing series across North America, focused on grassroots programs. 4 different compounds are available through Hoosier Kartsport. The R55 is among the most popular with shifter kart categories. The R60 and R70 serve the 2-cycle and 4-cycle community at the club and regional level. The R80 is the official compound of the Margay Ignite program. The Hoosier Wet has been tested to the limits and ranks among the top rain racing tire in karting today. With a wide range of compounds and a made-in-the-USA racing heritage, Hoosier Kartsport has the tire you need for your track, series, or personal racing needs. Head to HoosierKartsport.com today to find your nearest dealer and follow them on all social media platforms by searching Hoosier Kartsport. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 3 of a brand new podcast that we launched just before the SCUSA Super Nationals, the EKN OutLap. Essentially, we're using it as a preview podcast to kind of have a look at an event that we're going to or the one that's coming up. We won't be at WKA KartWeek this year, but we did want to give it an outlap to kind of fire things up, because it is essentially, as we said from the top of the podcast, the first event of 2020. All right, David Cole, let's talk personal memories. You and I have both had a chance to be there. We've raced as well. Interesting, you raced the road race. I actually raced at the dirt track. I haven't raced the road course. I haven't raced Manufacturers Cup. I actually raced at the dirt track. But tell me some personal memories of yours from WKA KartWeek.
Yeah, my first experience was in 1996. I have the picture looking right at me here in my office.
That's nice.
We finally got to, I was actually a senior in high school, and my dad decided it was going to be his last year. He told my mom it's going to be his last year racing. So he wanted
Hold on.
Yeah, I know.
25 years later, or 20.
I know. It's hilarious, isn't it?
Sorry, that made me laugh. Bob Cole not racing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. It's insane to think about that. So he's like, I gotta go to Daytona. So he convinced my mom that we'll do it as a family trip, And I was just started racing a couple years before that full time, at a good pace, because my earlier start when I was younger was not good. So I was racing a Yamaha pipe sprint kart, and he was actually racing 100cc controlled laydown at the time. And I want to say one of my uncles raced with us that year. I can't remember Oh, it's on the other side of the office. I can't see it. So we all went down as a family, made a couple stops here and there on the way down. We stayed overnight in like Chattanooga and then got down there the day before practice day, stayed on the beach, of course, typical Daytona fashion. I think we stayed afterwards and did like the Daytona USA tour and stuff like that. For their, I don't think it's called Daytona USA anymore, but whatever that museum is outside the facility there, we did that. So just I think just being there was a great memory and a great time in our family's history. Just we were all together at the racetrack and just something you'll never forget. Racing wise, though, I sucked. Yeah. I was not good. I don't know if it was that year or if it was in '98 when I went back that I stuck piston after piston after piston. I think we had an air leak and we didn't know it. So it wasn't anything I did. It was just the engine was not at 100% capacity. So, so that for me personally, that's where I'll always think about when I think of Daytona, but it's been a very exciting to go back and be a media guy there and just kind of take it in every year. I always go to the road racing side every year. I go down there. I got to get the selfie photo with Daytona in the background but just to see the road racing family, because I don't really see them anymore other than there, I think now. But yeah, just really cool now that they built. I don't know. You probably used to go in the old tunnel as well too. Now they have the new tunnel in turn one. I love going down the old tunnel because it's so narrow and confined and you're like, oh my gosh, where are we going? And we're like, oh, we're in the Mecca of racing.
Yeah, I feel the same way anytime I come out of the tunnel at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's just this unbelievable kind of thing that gives you the willies. Yeah. So the funny thing is that for the last 15 years, or actually, let's say the last 15 years, we've been kind of focused here on e-karting news, on all the sprint racing stuff and road racing. But back in the I think from 2000 for 5 or 6 years, I had a magazine called Speedway USA. So it was just focused on dirt oval racing, dirt and asphalt oval racing. And I remember getting a chance to race a couple times here and there. And it was Jody Miller and Todd Miller and Harold Wiggins from Phantom Racing Chassis said, "You're going to be at Daytona. You got to race. You got to come and run the dirt race." And I'd run a couple of dirt races and had some decent success. But I knew that Jody's kart was going to be strong. Todd Miller built a fantastic flathead engine, still does. And I was going to run Senior Champ and Star Champ with the Tecumseh Star engine. I think it was 2002. And that was, Dave, we talked about how many numbers they had back then. I want to say there was 100 guys in both of my classes. And so I wasn't sure. Obviously the tires are so important, but Jody's like, "Don't worry, we got you. We got a brand new Phantom." It was called a Big Buggy, was the name of it. We had Speedway USA on the side. I had my suit and everything, running Champ, and it was amazing. I went there, and I remember, I think you got a couple, maybe one practice session. Maybe I don't think it was just one. Maybe I don't think it was even two. It was out at the Municipal Stadium, the dirt track, and I remember 100 guys in the class, and I think 40 started the main event, and they did 2 qualifying runs. So the first qualifying run, the top 20 locked in. The second qualifying session, the next 20 locked in. And I remember being out there in the senior champ class, and I'm boogieing around. I didn't feel real comfortable yet. The kart hadn't come in quite yet, and I think it was only like 4 or 5 laps was your qualifying. And I remember coming around. I want to say I was like 28th or 29th in my group of 50 guys. And I came around the corner and it wasn't working. And I remember Jody like, "You got to go for it." And I went down to turn 1 and there was a guy on the inside and I was going to go around him. Well, this is lap 4 of the 5. Well, I just didn't lift at all because I was lifting a little bit, getting comfortable. You can't lift there. You have to go, you have to be flat out all the way around. I just wasn't comfortable. Finally, I just pinned it and I went around the outside and I'm like, man, this thing's going to stick. And I came back around that final lap. I didn't lift. I had open racetrack, went all the way around and I had no idea. When I came off to the scales, Jody's standing there just pumping his fists, and I ended up qualifying 6th out of 100 guys. So I was pumped. And I think I qualified 6th for Star Champ as well. The kart was great. I got a good feel for it. We missed the gearing, and I think I went back to 6th to 13th. I think I finished 13th. And I got beat up a little bit and got shoved on the outside because our gearing wasn't there. I was coming on too much late. I needed a little more bottom. And then I think I finished 10th or 11th in Star Champ. But you know what? A couple of top 15 finishes made me happy, but it was fun to be able to get in there. Jody and Todd Miller, among two of the best guys I've ever met in the sport. Harold Wiggins, of course, an absolute legend. And to be able to run his stuff there was amazing. But yeah, it was an experience for sure, David. It was wild when I came off. That was one of the coolest things. I've won a bunch of races, not a ton, but I remember coming off the scales and having Jody at the other side of the scales pumping his fist that I'd qualified 6th. That was just
now Champ is the roll cage carts.
The roll cage carts.
Now you ran
cage
two
carts.
different chassis, correct?
I ran Senior Champ on the one day, Star Champ the next day.
Okay, so same cart, just pulled different engine out. Okay.
Pulled the engine up.
Tecumseh.
I'll tell you, the thing about the Tecumseh, which is crazy, was Jody was telling me, listen, you don't sit here and warm the engine up because there's the piston is so big on that engine on the Tecumseh when we used to run that deal, the Star Champ, that if you like we're just tapping it, bop bop bop, it would break the crankshaft or break the output shaft. So it's like just you feather it on and go. You don't just
It's like the old Leopard clutches. You don't sit there and idle it and rev it up while you're sitting still. You got to just step on it and go.
Yeah. It was fun. I do remember this because whatever year it was, it must have been 2002 that I ran Mid-Ohio, because I remember running Mid-Ohio in my shifter, my CTS 125 shifter. And I think in the rain or whatever, we were like 112 or 114 miles an hour on the back straightaway in the rain, right? So the speed was there. Well, I remember being on the grid talking to a couple of the guys at Daytona, which Municipal Stadium was a big fast track. And I think in the Star Champ, we were 70 miles an hour at the back straightaway. And the guy was like, man, Rob, are you okay with this? It's 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with 70 miles an hour. I did 114 about a month and a half ago. So it's such a different discipline. I really like the oval stuff. I would jump behind the wheel of an oval cart anytime because it's so much fun. But it was so different within those, October to December, running such totally different disciplines.
Well, the track at the stadium was around a football field. So essentially it was like a quarter mile track, like a running track, but it was put down with clay and dirt or whatever.
But it wasn't like seashells or something like that. Probably, it was like crushed seashells or something like that.
It was probably this. To be honest, because I never got to go. So because the 1 year I was going to go, they had like no turnout whatsoever. So they were done by the time we were done at the sprint track. So I was never.
2002 was before you were with us. You didn't start with us till 2004.
The last time they were there in 2005, I was at the sprint track working, and we didn't have, because we got done so late every day. I tried to get over the dirt track, but they had wrapped up so early because the numbers was at that change in era of the of dirt program back then. So I was never actually able to go watch a race at the stadium.
Hey, I got one more personal memory from us from Daytona.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So in 2004 was when David joined ekartingnews.com, and his first big race, I had purchased ekartingnews.com, and our first big race was at the Superkarts USA Super Nationals. And of course, it was 2004. Correct. So David comes on. He is now going to be essentially the managing editor of ekartingnews.com. I still had Shifter Kart Illustrated, which was Super Kart Illustrated by that point, I believe. Might have been just Shifter Kart Illustrated still. So we go down to Daytona, and we're gonna, of course, we're trying to get David and I back to our families to cap off the season for New Year's rather, and so we had a ride. We set up a ride from the track back to Orlando, where where our flights were, but we were going to miss, I think, the final two main events on the second day, Saturday, whatever day it was. We were going to miss those final two main events because they had pushed a little late. Yeah, we got to go. It's an hour and a half, whatever, drive a little back to Orlando. I think we were sitting watching with George Arellano from Ocala Grand Prix. And George says, you guys can't miss this. You can't miss it. He goes, don't worry about your ride back to Orlando. I have my plane here. We'll watch the final. We'll go over to the airport, which is right beside, obviously, the municipal airport. The regional airport is right beside the speedway. We'll hop in my plane, and I'll drop you off in Orlando. And so I remember, here's David Cole. joining eKarting News, does the Super Nationals, goes to Daytona for the Manufacturers Cup race, road race, everything, and when he ends up flying in a private plane back from Daytona to Orlando. And all I could tell him when we got off the plane was, don't expect this to happen on a regular basis.
And it hasn't since.
It hasn't since.
But
that was,
mind you, I think that was like only the third time I flew.
What?
Yes, because I flew one time maybe like fourth or fifth. And at the time, I still don't like heights, but I got sick all the time flying. My stomach does not handle it very well. I've gotten better over the 15 years now, but yeah, it was like only the fourth time I had flown, because I flew once in high school and then another time for our honeymoon and then Vegas. So I think it was like the fourth time I flew for anywhere.
I didn't remember that. And the funny thing is, it was such a hop, skip, and a jump. Like, I think the flight was 25 minutes or something like that. We never lost cell phone service.
No, we were calling people.
Yeah. So if you obviously didn't like heights, you could see. It's not like you were above the clouds. We saw everything.
I'm pretty sure I called my wife for that trip as well too.
You probably did. That was cool from George to give us a ride back, and that was obviously an experience. One of our memorable parts of being at WKA KartWeek. I remember that. I just had to remind you.
No,
David,
you didn't have. I think about that all the time. Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
This is not how we roll at eKarting at Howden Media Group. We don't. This is probably not going to happen again. But yeah, you know what? We've had some good times down there. We've had a chance to watch some really good racing. I'm a big fan of the track. And I know it's access roads and whatever it may be inside of turn number 3 and 4 at Daytona. But anytime I've been there, there's, with the 90-degree corners they have and a couple of the corners that are designed, I've always thought it just races really well. There's a lot of places to pass. I think it's a great sprint track. I always have.
I particularly like the S's section coming onto the main straightaway.
Yeah.
It's old school. I love that. It provided one passing zone there and another coming out, because it made it easier for you to get a pass coming out, to where now it's a flat out run but the last corner is pretty difficult. A lot of guys struggled getting through that. So there is still a passing opportunity, but it's more of a draft opportunity.
Yeah. Because
it's not too hard of a braking zone, where when they went through the little S's section, that was a little bit of a hill back down. It was more fun and exciting, but still, overall the track is a very raceable track. Again, a lot of opportunities to pass and a lot of opportunities to set yourself apart from the rest of the field.
Lastly, David, for me, one of the cool things is anytime you're working the track, I've never announced the races. You've had Eric Brennan there. The year that I handled the EKN Trackside Live, we had Xander Clements on the mic. It's always at the start of every road race. Well, the tracks, we've got stuff going on the sprint track, and all of a sudden, the start's coming. And everybody comes around banking 3 and 4. And the backdrop of the sprint track is the entire race group of road race working their way around. I've always thought that's one of the unique opportunities, the unique vantage points and really experiences in North American karting, is to see the sprint track on and then everybody rolling out of turn 3 and 4. I've always thought that's super cool.
Yeah, it's a very similar to the old Charlotte Motor Speedway track that's inside turns 3 and 4 there. So back in the old North American Karting Championship days, that was a unique aspect to it. It makes it easier for me because my family would be road racing, and so I'm down there covering inside Daytona there, the Man Cup race, and I'm able to look up and kind of keep track as I'm out there taking photos or doing the radio network commercials or anything like that. I'm able to look up and see, try and time out their lap times, mentally and make sure they're coming around every lap and be able to watch their race. And again, just to be able to watch friends racing and kind of keep track of what's going on out on the road racing circuit. But yeah, like I said, you're going to see with the Briggs category and the tags and the shifters, you're going to see groups of maybe 10, 12, 20 carts coming around Daytona 3 and 4 there.
All right, David, wrap things up. Let's cap off this edition of the EKN OutLap. Let's talk about our social media channels. For those of you who may not be at WKA, you can follow our channels. You can follow WKA's channels as well. Make sure you use the hashtag #KartWeek. David, wrap things up.
Yeah, WKA has been running a contest with the KartWeek hashtag on social media. I believe they're going to keep running that up and through the event. So even if you're at home, you're watching on Race Monitor, do a little screen grab and put it up on social media and use that hashtag KartWeek. Make sure you tag World Karting Association and even tag us, and we'll try and get it shared because, again, all 3 programs will be on Race Monitor, so you'll be able to follow the results through that.
So, folks, we are done with our 3rd edition of the EKN OutLap, essentially starting the 2020 season. The WKA Kart Week with Manufacturers Cup, with Road Race, with the Dirt World Championships. Yeah, it's part of 2019, but really it kicks off the 2020 season. We are here. It's holiday season. Christmas and New Year's are coming. But as always, this tradition of having this race at Daytona International Speedway. On behalf of David Cole, folks, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.